Welcome to Intimacy Play, a podcast by Pleasy Play. We host open discussions with world-leading experts on couples, sex, and intimacy, so you can build a more exciting, fun, and intimate relationship. I'm your host, Mikaela Silva. So today we have with us Venus O'Hara. She has been with us before, so check out the other episodes. So Venus is a professional sex and orgasm specialist and an expert sex toy tester. If you want to listen all about this, check the other episode. But right now and today, we're going to talk about a specific brand that Venus loves, recommends, and that we at Pleasy Play also love and recommend. Should we say what it is, Venus?
Yes, it's Satisfyer, and I am also the brand ambassador for Satisfyer. So I have many different roles, and after testing so many toys, I'm very happy to be the brand ambassador for Satisfyer. And Satisfyer is a sexual wellness brand, and it was established in 2016. So this year it's 5 years, it's celebrating 5 years.
Woohoo!
So it's incredible to see the evolution in this short amount of time has been absolutely incredible. Because now they are in 100 countries, over 200 products, and 190 design awards. And what's really special about Satisfyer is that they make the brand accessible to everyone. And that's what I really love about them. It ties into my own mission to raise orgasmic awareness, that orgasms are for everybody.
That makes total sense to me. That's just something I want to talk to you about, because somebody that's listening to us might say, well, Venus is always going to be positive about the brand because she is the brand ambassador. But we've talked before, so I know you a little bit. And I know that you would never endorse a brand that you don't 100% believe in. Can you tell us why you actually endorse Satisfyer? Why are you their brand ambassador?
Well, I'm doing many different things with Satisfyer because I'm a Gemini, so I have different specialities from promotion to explaining things to users because I've tested so many toys. And also I'm part of the back end as well in the development side because I have so much knowledge. So I'm doing lots of different things. It helps them to realize my Gemini dream of being a jack of all trades, master of none. So it's really fantastic. But what I really do love is how they make orgasms accessible to everyone, and that's something that I really believe in because I've been a sex toy reviewer since 2013, and I've been able to see all the different changes in the industry since then. For example, when I started, there were lots of toys which were budget toys, which were battery operated, and then there were other toys which were in nice boxes and they were rechargeable, but they were nearly, let's say, €100 a toy, a lot more expensive. Whereas I have one box now full of these battery-operated toys, and some of them are disintegrating because they were made from jelly, so some very scary things that happen after a while. And sometimes when I go back to my toys, I see things have kind of disintegrated or discolored, or it's kind of scary. So before, cheap was bad, or you end up buying lots and lots of batteries. And then if you wanted to spend a bit more money, then you're getting a nice box and it's rechargeable. Whereas when Satisfyer came in, they made sex toys rechargeable and affordable. So there's no one trying to sell battery-operated toys now. I think that's really, really a good idea because it's very affordable and everyone can afford, well, I think about the 30, 40 euro toy, or €50, so I think it's very accessible. Whereas that would be the price maybe 10 years ago for something with batteries.
Interesting. So I decided to jump right in and talk about the brands, but I do think that people would love to know a little bit more about you, especially if somebody hasn't listened to the other episode. So can you tell us how you first discovered sex toys?
Well, about 12 years ago this summer, I was working in real estate, and that was another crisis back then in 2009, and I had no salary. So I was meeting lots of people who had online businesses, and I thought I can do that. So I decided to set up a blog about sexuality, and I sold two apartments and got some nice big stash of commission. And I decided to leave my job and follow my dream because I was so tired of working for someone else. And fortunately, I was very lucky. But after a very short amount of time, I started to write books. I had book deals. Then I became very prolific in Spanish media. So I was writing for El País, GQ Spain, Playboy Spain, and also I published 3 books here. So thanks to my position in the media, I started to receive free sex toys. So in 2013, I put two and two together and started to review sex toys on my own blog. And at first it was for erotic shops in Spain, in Spanish. And I was the first person to make sex toy reviews in Spanish in Spain. And then I started to work with brands, distributors, and then I started making content in English in 2016. So then I've become more international. So I've become very well known in the sector, and now I've got 700 toys, and I have a new apartment now, and they have their own bedroom. So that's quite crazy. So that's that's my expertise is sex toys, really.
But why were you called for the sex toys? So why do you think it was your life's mission to try these toys and to be an advocate for sex toys and sexuality for both women and men?
Well, I think at the time I did talk about orgasm a lot in my press articles. I think becoming a sex blogger ruined my sex life in a way. so I think I was having sex more with myself than with other people. I think there's a long story to that, but so I spoke about masturbation a lot, and I really believed that it was important to know yourself sexually. So I always believed that for many, many years. And I found the whole process of just being able to be orgasmic was a really positive force in my life. I believe it helped me emotionally to not have any more toxic relationships, because I think many women become attached to toxic guys just because the sex is good. So it helped me to kind of liberate myself from those type of relationships. So I was very, I was always had this mission to raise orgasmic awareness. I didn't really put it in those words back then, but I think when you are, I'm quite spiritual, so I just felt this big impulse. It was a guide, but also once I had this position of in the press, then the sex toys came to me. So that was something that just came to me, and I just put two and two together and decided to make it a business, making reviews from toys. And yeah, because at the time, the toy I was using a lot, I just bought myself, or someone bought it for me, and these toys I was getting sent were not as good as my favorite toy. So it was kind of like, you have to pay me to kind of like make reviews. So I started to make reviews of sex toys, and it's incredible to see how much things have changed since then.
I love a sentence that you just said. Actually, I love two of them, but one of them is sex toys came to me. That's priceless. I love it. And the other one that you said really got me thinking. And if you could elaborate on that, I would love it, which is your sex life became worse because you were talking about sexuality. Do you think that men were intimidated by that, by the fact that you knew so much about sexuality and orgasms?
I think so. I think some men were, definitely. And also I was writing lots of articles about sexuality that were accompanied by erotic pictures with me in them. So I was also an erotic model, and not every guy can handle that type of woman. But for me, it was way more important than a relationship, but this kind of discovery, professional and personal discovery that I was doing at the time. So I'm just in love with my work, really. And so it was a filter. And also the sex toys, I think back then, lots of sex toys were more phallic. So people were more intimidated by them. Whereas I think now things have changed a lot. Attitudes have changed a lot, and shapes have changed as well. But in general, also from my own point of view, my own perspective, because I was talking about sex and writing about sex morning, noon and night, it made me more demanding about the relationships I was going to have. Because I remember one time I had sex with this guy because I hadn't had sex for 6 months or something. And I was just lying on my sofa looking up the ceiling, and I was thinking, I do not write sex for this type of sex. So I decided to, I wrote an article actually called 2014, The Year Without Fucking. Sorry to say that language, but it really was. I really decided to stop and only make love from that point on. So I just thought, I'd rather have a sex toy orgasm than have sporadic or casual encounters. And I would encourage I would give that same message to anyone else as well.
I like that advice, but at the same time, I would love if we could give advice on the other side. So let's say we have somebody that wants to be empowered sexually. So they want to learn more about themselves. They want to try sex toys, but they are already in a relationship, or they want to be, and they're scared that might intimidate their partner or their future partner. So is there a way we can mitigate this? So make sure that we somehow tell the partner or the potential partner that sex toys are not intimidating and they can be part of a natural sex life, a normal sex life.
In those situations, I would always recommend a wand massager, such as Wonder Woman from Satisfyer, because everyone loves a massage. And I think that's a type of toy that you can both use on each other. Because if you just put that on someone's back and then they're all relaxed and then they do it to you and then you can finish off by using it on your clitoris, which is always a fantastic way to have an orgasm, then I think that's the least threatening sex toy to start with.
I haven't tried that one.
Oh, you have to, because it's got this, it's a really good value for money. And wand massagers in general have this massive motor in the head, exactly where you want it. So it's good for massaging the body, but also it stimulates the whole clitoris, because part of the clitoris is not just the part that's outside the man in the boat, as they sometimes call it, but also it's inside the labia. Mm-hmm. So this type of stimulation is stimulating everything. It's really like, wake up, Dolpha. It's really amazing. It's like a clitoral alarm.
For sure, my next purchase. Now you got me wondering.
It's quite big, and people look at it and think, "Oh my god!" and they think, "Is that for penetration?" But it's not. It's all external.
Well, I've seen a lot of the toys that seem big. Mm-hmm. They have a function, so it's not to be used internally. Usually, it's for you to grab better the sex toy, or is it to, give better pleasure in terms of external stimulation? So, yeah, I'm not intimidated by that. But can people be? Do you think there are people that are intimidated, especially partners with the size of a sex toy?
Definitely. I always receive comments on my orgasmic breakfast that I share on Instagram. People say, did you use the whole thing? When it's actually a completely external toy, because part of it is the handle is for ergonomics. That might be why it's big. But people just assume that everything is for penetration, because we have this concept that sex is penetration, which of course is wrong.
Yeah.
But maybe it takes a long time to change people's minds. And also, remember years ago, when I first started discovering sex toys, the most popular type of sex toy was the rabbit. Mm-hmm. So people used to look at the whole rabbit and think, oh my God, it's massive. But really, if you analyze it, only a third of that goes in. You're only inserting part. You've got the handle at the bottom, and then you've got the clitoral part in the middle or a lower third. So you're only actually inserting a top third of that. So people see the whole thing, but it's actually a much smaller penetration area.
But then again, this is about stigma, isn't it? Even if it was the whole sex toy to be inserted, some women might like it, some women might not. People with vulvas as well. But what is the problem with that? Why do we need to be asking those types of questions? Do you think people that ask those questions are insecure, or they just want to learn more?
Well, I think that the question of size is one of the biggest insecurities among men. And that's one of the biggest question that I receive from men, people asking me, I measure this much, do you think it's okay? And I think that fear or stigma or obsession comes from porn, really, but I'm not a porn consumer. So I always try and make people feel more assured and let them know that it's okay and not to be intimidated and be happy with what they've got. It's very important to say as well that sex toys are not a replacement for a penis or for fingers. It's a plus. It's your friend, not a rival.
For sure.
And I think sometimes some men I know are too afraid to give a sex toy to their partners because they think, well, maybe she'll prefer it to me. I remember I met a nurse when I was in hospital recently. I gave Satisfyer Pro 2 to all the nurses who looked after me when I was in hospital recently. It was so cool for pneumonia. And it was interesting, the conversations that came from this gift. And one nurse told me that she already had it, or her boyfriend had already bought it for her. So he used it with her, and then he took it home to his place after. I just thought that was very clever, actually.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Because of that stigma that people think that sex toys might substitute the other person, their partner. One of the sex toys that we put in Pleasy Play that we use is the Satisfyer Partner, or the Satisfyer Whale, or the Double Joy. So they are to be used within a couple. So you can use it for foreplay, you can use it with penetration, or you can just use it for any type of play, basically. Do you think it's better to use a sex toy that can be used during intercourse or that can be used by both people in the relationship, do you think that takes out a little bit of the intimidation part?
Those particular toys, they are called C-shaped or U-shaped, depending on how you read it. I personally do not recommend them for penetration. I think there's just too much going on and they could be very uncomfortable. I recommend them as a dual stimulator for a woman to use on her own, but also you can use it as a stroker on the man, on the penis. So I think it's an excellent toy for foreplay. I think it's definitely something that people can use together. But there are other toys, for example, the partner, I can't remember which one, it looks like a horseshoe that you can use in 14 different ways. That's the type of toy you can use with penetration, or more like a cock ring, that type of ring, penis ring, that those toys you can use more during penetration. There's many ways to use them as well. You can use them on your fingers, and then you can spoon, and then you can stimulate the clitoris from behind, or you can use it during oral sex. If you're giving a guy a blowjob, you can use it as well, just to stimulate his testicles while he's enjoying that. So there's so many ways you can use toys, and that's partly what I try to do with my reviews, is not just to talk about a toy, but also to present all the different ways you can use a toy. For example, a rabbit vibrator, I never use it internally and externally. I use it mostly externally completely. So I always try and look at different ways to use toys, definitely. And one thing that's very fun now are all these wearable toys. They're lots of fun, especially for people who are, not in the same place, and they can use an app. So there's it's like sex toys is kind of like reinventing sex almost,
For sure. But did you know that we actually have excellent feedback with people using the C-shaped or U-shaped toys during intercourse? We have
really?
a lot of couples saying that they don't use it every day, obviously, but that they actually love it because it brings a different type of sensation, and that this isn't heterosexual specifically, that the male partner can actually feel the vibration as well. So we've had a couple of them like that.
I think it would depend on what I call genital compatibility, because sometimes if you're trying to do sex the normal way, let's say the penetration, don't like to say sex and penetration because that's very bad, but if people are using the same methods of thrusting when there's a toy inside, that can be extremely painful. So I would recommend people to use a more grinding motion. So that would be with cock rings or with these C-shaped toys, because it's not so aggressive, and also plenty of lubricant. And also it depends on if the guy is very well endowed, and that can be very painful. Could be a lot going on inside.
I think that's the advantage of these conversations and of sex toys, because we are all different and we all experience pleasure and pain in different ways. So the fact that we had really good feedback about using during intercourse does not mean that everybody has to feel this way. So this is just a little note for everybody that's listening. You don't need to use a sex toy like it says you need to, unless it's for safety reasons, obviously. And above all, just try different things. Like Venus was saying, these U or C-shaped vibrators are not made for men, but they can be used to stroke a penis, and they can be very pleasurable, right?
Definitely, especially if you blindfold him and he doesn't know what it is. That's a real fun way to kind of introduce a toy as well.
Nice. I want to ask you something a little bit personal. I hope that's okay. What are your go-to toys for pleasure and for orgasms?
I think I'm quite lazy, and I don't usually go for penetration toys when I'm on my own. I think I would go for a microphone. Well, they call it microphone in Spanish, actually. The wand massager. That's something that's always going to be really good. And then any type of clitoral stimulator. But I do love the Pro 2, actually, the Satisfyer Pro 2, which I rediscovered this year. I hadn't tried it for a couple of years until recently, but now I don't really have a go-to toy because I have so many toys to test and to review. I try not to have a go-to anymore. I'm just reviewing the ones that I'm working with. And something I really do love that I tried recently is the Dual Pleasure from Satisfyer, which is a air pulse toy, but it also has a vibration. So it's nice to kind of enjoy the air pulse and the vibration at the same time, because usually I would go for continuous vibration pattern, for for orgasm. I think most people do. I think when you see toys that have 10 pleasure patterns, you think only 3 of them are actually any good, But if you want an orgasm, but in this case, you can actually combine, let's say, a continuous air pulse, and then you can have wavy vibrations, and then you can really enjoy the different sensations on your clitoris. It's just wow. And I've also been inventing my own pleasure programs with the app. And I think when you're with a person, I think those teasing waves or pulsations are more useful when you're in a partner situation, because it can be quite teasing. You start enjoying it and it stops. It can really make the pleasure last a lot longer.
And you actually touched on a point very interesting that I remembered that made me think of a question, which is, we've also had clients say that in the beginning they were overwhelmed about a toy that had a lot of vibration or a lot of pulsing. But then, because we kept actually checking in with these clients, because we love to understand the feedback of the toys and if they like it, if we, what we should be changing on the toys that we send. And the feedback usually is that with time, they start getting accustomed to it and it's actually more pleasurable. Do you think it's something that sometimes takes time for people for the body to get accustomed to, having different things being played with?
I think so. That was my personal experience. I do believe that many people have their certain methods that always work. And when that could be with a toy, with masturbation, with sex. And if you go out of those patterns or those protocols that you've created for yourself, then it can be more challenging to have an orgasm or to reach pleasure. So for me, for example, at the beginning, I could only have an orgasm with a rabbit vibrator for many years. And then even though I had different toys, I had bullet vibrators and different types of lay-ons, etc., but I just thought they were useless. And then one day my rabbit vibrator broke. So I was kind of obliged to learn different things. And now that I've tested so many different ways, I can have orgasms in different ways as well. And also the sex toys has actually helped my partner sex as well, because I used to only have orgasms from penetration, which is very different from most women. And I never used to have orgasms from clitoral stimulation or oral sex. Whereas now I can. So I think it's really important to have variety and just really go for pleasure. And then hopefully one day the pleasure will become an orgasm. So I think pleasure should be the way. But I definitely think that happens to lots of people. For example, you could be in a sexual situation with a guy who watches lots of porn and he's used to masturbating. And then at the end of the sex, they always have to finish off masturbating because that's what they're doing all the time. So I think that happens with many people. They find one method that works and they stick to it. Which is great to find your method, but I think it's better. You have much more pleasure if you introduce some variety.
So, what your suggestion would be: don't try it just once, even if you didn't like it. Try it, maybe the same sex toy, but in a different position, a different way, different mindset.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Only if it's painful is the only reason to stop, really. But I think people expect miracles from sex toys sometimes, and I think a sex toy is like joining the gym. You can't just have the membership. You actually have to do the work yourself, and that's what it was like for me when I bought my first rabbit vibrator. I was with a flatmate at the time, and we were watching Sex in the City, and we saw that iconic scene with Charlotte and the rabbit, and I was like, we need to get some rabbits. So we both went to this shop, and we bought these rabbits that were battery operated, made of jelly, which you would never see now. And then we both went home and went into our respective bedrooms. And I came out after a while and I was like very disappointed. And I was sitting on the sofa and she didn't resurface for a long time. And she came out and she said, wow, it's amazing. And I was thinking, it was my idea. It's not fair. So fortunately, I had the perseverance and the patience to keep trying every time I was a little bit aroused or horny. And then one day, it was 6 months later, so that's how much perseverance I had. I exploded and had this incredible orgasm. And that from day on, I was liberated. So I definitely think it's worth trying again. But the reason why it worked was because I'd made this mind-body connection, which I think is really important during masturbation. It is for me anyway, because I live masturbation kind of in my imagination, because the biggest sex organ is the brain. So
sure.
definitely there. It's not just a case of just buying a toy and then putting on your genitals and expecting to have an orgasm. It's not like that at all. You have to do some of the work yourself, maybe using your pelvic floor muscles or your imagination, or just being absolutely relaxed. So
your story is hilarious. I loved it. You talk a lot about masturbation and how that is helpful and how people should be doing it, both men, women, people with penises and vaginas. Why do you think that's important for a healthy sex life?
I think it's important to connect with your own body, not just with sex toys, but also with your hands. As I said before, sex toys are not a replacement of hands or penises or genitals of someone else. I think it's more important to have sex with yourself than with a stranger or something. I was watching this, and also you communicate what you like to someone else much better if you know, because people expect miracles from toys and from their partners sometimes. Oh, he was bad in bed, but did you say what you wanted? You have to take some responsibility for these situations. And also, because of my job, many times when I meet new people, the subject of sex toys arises, and many people who are against it, they think, oh, I'd rather go on Tinder and have sex with a stranger than have sex with myself. And I just think that's crazy. Or they think a sex toy, having sex, masturbation is a cold thing, and it's not. A sex toy is merely a tool. You're with yourself. It's a connection with yourself. And I think it's really important to make that connection, because sometimes people are going on these dating apps for attention or for their ego rather than for their sexuality. That's what my perspective is. And I recently watched this awful documentary about all these terrible dates from a very famous very famous dating app, where people were getting, they were ending up in these kind of situations where they were getting raped by people they met online, and it was lots of aggression and very terrible things happening. And I think if you're in that situation where you feel a little bit horny and want some attention, it's much better to have a sex toy than put yourself in danger, And I think to improve your sex life I would advise anyone to have sex with people you actually know and that you actually like. That's really important.
For sure. Sex is a basic need, so people can do it with a partner or by themselves. You don't need to put yourself in danger. It's just to meet that need, right?
Definitely.
I want to ask you, because you have all this experience with sex toys, which would be your top 2 picks? One for people with vulvas, one for people with penises, for sex toys. So you've talked about the ones. Give us another one. So your top picks from Satisfyer, hopefully, that you would give to your best girlfriend and guy friend.
Well, I definitely recommend a wand for couples, definitely to experiment with, especially a couple who are kind of a bit apprehensive or not so open to the idea, but anyone would love it. Even if you are open, you're definitely going to love that. And I would definitely recommend the Pro 2, which is the world's best-selling sex toy at the moment.
Oh, wow.
It sold millions and millions of, and it's been a kind of word of mouth thing as well. So there hasn't been a kind of campaign to make it so, but it's just been a word of mouth.
Why is it so special?
I think it's because it is really good. I thought it was good when I first tried it, but I kind of rediscovered it because now I've tested so many different types of air pulse toys. But I really believe that nozzle is a nice shape, and lots of people like it, and it's also very easy to hold. And the sensation is it can go from gentle to kind of more moderate and strong. So you can kind of find the kind of intensity that suits you without being too painful or too aggressive. And also it's a fantastic price as well. So I think a lot of people like that. And it's a very different sensation. It's very different from vibration as well. So I think that's so many people, not just me, are saying that it's great, so it must be great. And for a man, I think this is very complicated with men's toys, because there's a lot of discrepancy with size, and that doesn't influence the enjoyment of toys. Some toys that can be good for one guy are not going to be good for another because of the size issue. So there's a lot of variety among guys. For example, I have tested all my toys with Mars O'Hara, and he loves all of them. But then some other guys will just say, "Oh, the head of my penis doesn't even fit in," So I think it all depends. But I'm not really sure which one he thinks would be the best one. I think his favorite would be the Satisfyer Vibration Men with Heat. That would be the one. Yeah, because with the heat it's quite cool because you can kind of put some lubricant there as well, and then that feels quite nice when it kind of gets really hot and trickling, you know. So that's the thing. But also, as I said, it's very different. The difference in size can really influence the enjoyment of those masturbation toys. So I would recommend the C-shaped toy just to kind of use together.
Interesting. So we have three specific tips. One would be for women, you were recommending the Satisfyer Pro 2, which is a clitoral stimulator.
Yeah.
That uses suction, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Can you use it also in for nipples, to stimulate the nipples?
You can if you can handle that, because I mean, for me personally, I'm a bit too sensitive there, but some people do use it that way and they enjoy it. So if I would say for couples, I would say the C-shaped, U-shaped, and the wand. You can get so many different ways. There's so many ways to use those two toys.
Perfect. So I hope everybody got those 3 tips and they can try it and enjoy the rest of the week so much happier.
Definitely.
And when Satisfyer says that they incorporate groundbreaking technology in sexual wellness devices, what do they mean by this? Do you have any idea?
I think now they've got the app, which is amazing because you can control up to 4 different toys at the same time. You can have a video chat. There's so many. It's just making all these different ways to enjoy a toy. So now my reviews are taking a lot longer because first now I have to try the manual way, and then I have to test the app, and that takes several tests because there's so many things to discover. For example, you've got a feature called ambient sound, which is literally a reaction to any sound around you. And for example, I have to put up with this building being renovated near me, which is so annoying every morning, 8 o'clock. But if I was with Mars O'Hara, I could just, have my vibrator respond to these annoying noises. Or it could be the TV, or it could be when you're in a concert. That would be very fun, a lot of fun, especially these panty vibrators, which are becoming very popular now. When we can go back to concerts, so to have something wearable that's going to make you kind of vibrate. So obviously these types of toys are not, the objective is not orgasm, it's foreplay and with your partner. And also you can incorporate your music, import your music lists from Spotify as well. So that's another type of stimulation, and also creating your own patterns and sequences, because sequences is quite interesting because you can start off slow and then it get more intense and then become really, let's say, a continuous vibration at the end. So you can have lots of different things happening, or you can program them yourself. I mean, I was thinking, my impression at first was that the app was just for couples, whereas actually now I'm discovering that I can enjoy many things with it myself. For example, the preset patterns on an AirPulse toy are just continuous, whereas with the app you can make all different patterns. You can make pulsations, waves, etc. So you can have
fun trying like a new pattern.
Definitely. So the possibilities are infinite.
Makes total sense. And I was thinking, so we've given the 3 top toys to try depending on who you are and if you're in a relationship or not. But now everybody's really eager to travel. So to go to another country, to hop on a plane or on a bus or on a train. What would be, in your opinion, the best traveler sex toys? Because let's say it, they have to be a little bit small and hopefully discreet, so we don't get stopped by security in the middle of the airport to explain our sex toys. Or, I don't know, that'd be a problem.
Well, there's one toy that I actually took with me to Madrid last week. I can't remember what it's called actually. I think it's called Secret Affair. It's really cool because it's like a bullet vibrator, but quite big, and then it's got this golden lid, so it looks like it could be part of your makeup. And it's very cool because you can take the lid off, and then you just twist it around, and you press a button. This light comes on, which is the button, so there's no need for a travel lock. And then of course it's protected in your makeup because it's the cover is the part that touches your body is actually covered. So that's something I would really, really recommend. But also, if you're not going through any security things, you could wear a panty vibrator and then have your partner who's traveling with you maybe pressing the buttons, and that could make it a much more fun experience. Definitely.
That sounds
As long
so
as
fun.
because obviously you do not want to get frisked and have this metal going off. Of course, as long as you're not going on a plane, that is.
For sure.
Or maybe you can put it on just before you board. So that could be a fun thing to do.
I mean, I was thinking about this question before asking, and the reason why I said it has to be discreet is a friend of mine was saying that they actually got caught in the airport by the security guard asking them what one of the items was. And this was a guy who was visiting his girlfriend. So he just opened the bag. He showed it was an anal plug. And security guy is like, what is that? He's like, it's a toy. It's like, oh, he's like, well, she likes it. He said it was hilarious. And at the same time, it was like the most embarrassing moment of his life.
It's happened to me so many times, actually. but it's what's kind of really embarrassing about it is that now with kind of terrorism threats, they don't laugh because they're very serious. It happened to me in London. I mean, I had this big dildo. It was actually a strap-on, and the box said "lesbian lover" on it. This is many years ago, and I mean, everything was opened, and I was just standing there in front of everyone, because it's not just the security people, it's everyone else who sees you as well, you know. So it's quite funny. But also in Hanover, in usually October time, there is a big fair, a big trade fair for sex toys. So I think the airport is very well prepared for everyone's suitcase coming through. But I think you should not be afraid of those things. I think maybe years ago there was more ignorance about these different shapes, etc. But now I think there is way more awareness.
Oh, for sure.
You shouldn't be afraid or ashamed of these things. Definitely not. I have a friend who's a flight attendant, and she doesn't take sex toys with her because she doesn't want her colleagues to find out if she gets stopped, you know. But I think it's a risk worth taking.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if the security guard were to laugh, I wouldn't see a problem. But if they're not laughing, that's a little bit more serious.
Definitely. But as I say, there are many toys now that like this secret affair that from Satisfy are all similar. There are some similar ones that they just look like makeup, so you can put them in your makeup bag, no problem.
That's a great advice.
And something as well, there was the Satisfyer Traveler, which was specifically for travel because it's like an air pulse with a lid. But there is something better than that, which is the Satisfyer Love Triangle, because that vibrates and it has the air pulse and it has a lid. So that's something I would say would be a good toy. And it also fits in your hand, so it's very, very discreet.
I think we'll have to research all of these. I think we know most of them, but to give some screenshots when people are actually listening to the podcast so they can have a little bit of an idea what we're talking about.
Fantastic.
So just 2 more advices before we go. And that would be when selecting the right sex toy for someone's lifestyle, what should people take in consideration? What would be the top things?
Taking into consideration what type of stimulation you want, which part, and also what you already have. I mean, I think the objective would be to have a complete collection that offers different types of stimulation, whereas I have a friend who is just buying air pulse, and she might have 5 different ones, but I think once you've got one, you've got all of them, you know. I just think unless it's got vibration as well or there's something different about it, but I would go for variety. And people always ask me what would you include in the perfect, let's say, sex toy collection. And I would say a wand massager like the Wonder Woman, the Pro 2, and then a rabbit vibrator. There are several to choose from because a rabbit vibrator, but they're very, very versatile, even though they're quite a classic now. And then maybe a kind of bullet vibrator like the Secret Affair, because that's something you can take away with you, a C-shaped vibrator. And yeah, that's quite a good collection, really.
So start preparing the list and giving it to your partner for the next Christmas and birthday gifts, I'll say.
Exactly. Or why wait? You can just spoil yourself.
That sounds even better.
Yeah. I have this really cool agenda, actually. It's called the Clever Fox Agenda, and it's to help you plan your week. And it says this week's main goal, and it says reward if achieved. So I think it's important to, when you have, let's say in work, all these to-do lists and objectives of the week, you should always reward yourself. So that could be one of your rewards when you've done a lot of things work-wise. But I don't need to do that on mine. I just do sushi, delivery, or massage because I already have the sex toys.
Your week sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So, as a last question, and this is something that we have asked you before, so let's see if we can get a little bit of a different response. How do you keep your relationship open, exciting, and intimate? And I'm going to add here, and how do you do all of that and introduce sex toys in your life?
Well, for me, it's, hey, I need to try this toy. Because I have in my house this big box of all the incoming toys, and it's getting quite big. So maybe my situation is not so, it's a bit atypical. But I think it's important to maintain intimacy is a lot more important than wild sex, in my opinion. I mean, I didn't have sex for a long time because I was sick, recently, and the hugs and the kisses were a lot more important. So getting back from sickness into sexual mode was quite hard, but then one day it just happened. So I think it's important to have really good communication, and be able to try different things. I think that's really, really important, and be open to it. So I know there's many couples that might not be so easy, but it's all down to how comfortable you feel with that other person. Because if you are genuinely comfortable, then there's no problem. There should be no problem.
For sure. Well, Venus, thank you so much for taking us in this wild ride, talking about sex toys, about the favorite ones, about what you suggest couples and singles try. But above all, thank you for being so open and so honest about these topics.
My pleasure. I think this is what I was born to do. So thank you for having me.
We agree. Thank you.
And that was Intimacy Play. We hope you enjoyed it. To find out more about Pleasy and how we can take your relationship to the next level, visit pleasyplay.com. Then also make sure to search for Intimacy Play in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Pleasy, thank you for listening.